Hello, hello. What is up, John? How are you doing, sir?
Pretty good, Justin, man. I'm having a ball. This is awesome, man. I
Yeah,
When I found out I was doing this class with you, I was like, oh, this is gonna be so cool, man.
yeah. This is not your normal Wednesday. I'm definitely excited. I'm happy to be hosting this with you. It's always a pleasure. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, viewers, welcome. And I'm glad you're here. We're gonna talk about orthopedic type things, and some things that actually go with orthopedics, like radiculopathy and stuff like that. Sometimes it's hard to understand how those work together, but it's really cool when you're actually going through the process. But before we get started, hey, Justin, tell everybody a little bit about yourself. And
Yeah.
also, guys, when we go through this, if you're looking to join VACI, don't forget about that you can sign up for that free discovery call. And then also, you could actually request Justin as a coach. And you're going to find out as we go through the day here. Justin is top of the game. Justin's been around here for a while, and he actually really understands how everything goes, and he's excellent. But before I go too far into that, or even get mushy about this, hey Justin, tell everybody about yourself.
Oh man, I appreciate that intro so much. You got me starting up high, and I appreciate that. I just gotta say, so first off the bat, I always like to let everyone know, I'm not a veteran myself, right? But I'm a part of VA Claims Insider, and we have coaches who are non-veterans as well, but it's a community here, right? I came to VA Claims Insider because I know what we do helps. It brings about life change. This is what we're about, right? Disability process is more than just about compensation or about your disability. It's about getting some of your truths recognized, right? It's about, admitting to yourself even that you have some of these things that you've been working through. And we're here to be here as a support, to educate, to coach. This is what we're here to do. So that's why I'm a part of VACI. I love it. And hey, I've been here with Dr. John since my first day, and it's been a pleasure working with each other so far. I mean, this is great. I love that we get to host this class together. And yeah, you got shoulder pains, you got back pains, you're dealing with arthritis, you got knee issues. You're in the right place. You're going to learn about some of these things today, right?
Oh, that's perfect. And side note there, Justin. Yeah, you kind of breeze through that. You're not a vet. But the cool part is, guys, he is here to help because he believes in the whole mission of helping veterans. Now, how cool is that? We've built this community and built such a culture that we have people that say, yes, I want to get involved to help veterans. And that warms my heart more than just anything. I love that you're here to do that, and you take such passion in it. Um, Guys, after watching him go through what he's gone through and getting to the point where he's at now, it just warms my heart. This guy is an excellent coach, and he really knows what's going on. And but the thing is he feels the same passion, just as we all do. So, love you, Justin. I think you're awesome. And I also saw that you already have, what is it? Leon Staples has already said, "Hey, Justin, you're here."
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Oh, shout out to Leon. He's the man. Appreciate you coming here, lending your support, Leon. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's cool. Now,
awesome.
just wanted to let you know, guys, know I'm an old paratrooper. I was a paratrooper for a while. I served with the 1st 75th Ranger Battalion and also with Charlie Airborne up in Alaska. There was a time where I jumped into Panama, and then a month later, I jumped above the Arctic Circle. The craziest thing, especially for a 19-year-old kid that really doesn't, you know, didn't really get out all that much. I thought that was awesome, and I loved my time when I was in. And then I became a psychologist. I was trying to figure out why I have all this stuff in my head banging around and stuff like that. And I did that for 20 plus years. And then actually became a client here at VACI. And then next thing I know, I was a coach. And then next thing I know, I was an SVC, the senior veteran coach. And then I became a coach manager. But I love the whole progression of how that all happened. And matter of fact, I actually closed my practice a couple years back just so I could concentrate on this because I think it's so important that we really help veterans not only understand how the process works, but make sure that we can tailor fit something for them so they can get through it. It's actually a lot of fun to do that. And with every win, Justin, you know what I'm talking about. Even if
Oh yeah.
it's like woohoo,
Yeah.
anything really helps out, and it can be life changing. I've noticed that in my own life that a lot of the stuff is life changing when you start getting compensated for what you deserve and stuff like that. It really does kind of change your life, and not to mention all the other benefits that come with certain levels. So
Yeah, and just to build off what you're saying as well, because I would love to just throw this piece out there. It is fun. I mean, and you know, it's funny to hear someone say that about this process, right? But you know, the reason we do this is because we want to be a part of your journey, right? We want to be there with you as you're going through it. Because I mean, I think you can attest to this, John. It's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of anxiety with this process, and being able to give even a little bit of peace of mind as someone's going through this can make all the difference, right? And you know, I would say I love to see my veterans win. I love to see that process happen. But even more than that, I love the journey, right? Just being with everyone through the process and being able to be a part of that is just awesome, right?
yeah, definitely, I have to agree that that's one of the best things. Hey, Scott, I see your question there, and I tell you what, the best way to do is keep sending emails, keep trying to call. But what I'll do after the class today, I'll go ahead and jump on there and send them a message for you. Okay?
Yeah. And if you don't mind, John, I think I'm just going to launch right into the disclaimer, just so we can get that right out of the way and we get right into the class, right? So, okay. So the disclaimer, we are not accredited agents, VSOs, attorneys, or any other entity recognized by the Department of Veterans Affairs, the VA. And we are not affiliated with the VA in any way. VA Claims Insider is an education-based coaching and consulting company for disabled veterans exploring disability or exploring eligibility for increased VA disability benefits and who wish to learn more about that process. VA Claims Insider also connects veterans with vetted independent medical professionals in our preferred provider network for medical examinations and independent medical opinions for a wide range of disability conditions. All right.
Awesome. Before we actually get into this, I see a question there from Glenn Lassiter. What makes VA claims different than Trajector Medical? I'll be honest with you, I don't know anything about Trajector Medical, but what I can tell you throughout the whole process, I have learned there are some differences between us and any other organization that's helping veterans, and that includes the VSOs and all that kind of stuff. We take a deeper dive into medical records. We also make sure that you've got your everything has to be done like a puzzle, and we put those pieces together and actually tailor fit a plan, a strategy to get you where you want to be. Now the difference is we do everything above board. Everything is legal. Everything is done in a way to where there's a lot of integrity, and we also do it because we're building a community of veterans that have won and gotten through the process. That's the most important thing. I can tell you why we're different than anybody else out there. Now, you could go ahead and request that discovery call, Glenn, and that will actually help you know a little bit more about us. Excuse me. Since we're trying to go ahead and jump on a certain topic, I want you to make sure that you get the answer that you want. But that's a good way to find out a little bit more about us is go ahead and do that discovery call, and that'll pop up here in just a little bit. So make sure you get that, all that, and then go ahead and just do your homework. Actually look into it.
Yeah.
And that should make you feel a lot better about not only what we do, but how the coaches do. And also, while we go through this, you're going to see how information is shared and thoughts are shared about how to be successful in this process. So,
Yeah.
wouldn't you agree, Justin?
Oh, 100%, 100%. And, you know, if you're here just to get some knowledge, learn a little bit about the process, all the information we're talking about today is available, through our articles, our blogs, through our elite program. So, if you're looking to learn even more, I mean, definitely jump on those discovery calls, talk to some of us, ask those questions that you have. This is what we're here to do, is provide information, provide service, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. So as we go through some of this stuff, if you want to, I see a ton have already done it. Tell us the branch that and years that you served, and where you're from.
Yeah.
That will actually, it'll be kind of cool to actually see how many people are being touched by all this stuff today. The subject that we're going to talk about today is orthopedics. Now,
Yes.
orthopedic is a wide subject. And as you're going through the process, sometimes you have to remember too that there's that old song, leg bones attached to the ankle bone, or attached to the hip bone, attached to the backbone. All that stuff can actually be brought in together, but it needs to be done in a certain manner. You can't just throw out a bunch of different orthopedics out there and expect to get a positive return, because you're not telling them exactly what they need to hear. There's a lot of different little nuances that go into that. So we're going to be talking about musculoskeletal systems,
Mhm.
muscles, bones, nerves, joints, ligaments, tendons, and on. Now, when you do this, one of the best things that I've seen anybody that is going through this process is to actually make sure that you got plenty of medical evidence and
Yeah.
new medical evidence, to where you've gone to the doctor recently and talked to them about, hey, look, my knee hurts. Every time I twist or something like that, it swells up. That's the type of stuff that the VA is looking for, to make sure that they got that, because they'll do all the X-rays and all that kind of stuff. That'll tell them a lot, but it doesn't tell them about you personally, what you go through. And I think that's always the most important part, is what you personally are going through, to make sure that they understand how bad this is. For instance, I have a number of different things. Being an old paratrooper, you can imagine my knees are completely shot. There's stuff that I can't do anymore. I make sure that they understand that. And because of my knees, the way they work, it threw off my gait. And as I walked, all of a sudden, other muscles were being used in the wrong way. So then it creates another problem there. And that runs into what we call secondaries and stuff like that. But that's a little bit further down the line. But to remember what you're doing when you're going through this, Justin, I always say,
Yeah.
you walk in there and you basically say, "Hey, this is what's going on with me." You don't try to go to do a Google search on what knee looks like if it's bad, and all this junk that's on the internet that will tell you wrong things.
Yes.
Now, basically, you're going to have where they rate you as pain, and they rate on range of motion. And that's with pretty much anything here that we're talking about for orthopedics. But there's a second part of that that a lot of people don't get. Do you have flare ups?
Yeah.
If you have flare ups, what happens? Does this create other problems? And of course, if you have flare ups and your knee swells up and you're on a couch for 2 days, you're not exactly going to feel the best of feelings. You're going to be a little depressed and all of a sudden feel anxiety. Or if you're missing time from work and you're using up all your work days or all your time off from work because of certain situations like that, and it leads to other things that can
Yeah.
create a serious issue that we really need to get you into a situation and address. Wouldn't you agree, Justin?
Oh, 100%. Not to mention, when we talk about that, we're touching upon limitation, right? And look, I can't stress this enough. If you haven't talked to your doctor in like the last 10 years about these conditions that you're concerned about, I mean, they're the first person that needs to hear about these things, right? If they don't know, if they can't qualify what's going on, they're just going off of your word now for this process. And hey, we're not doctors here. We can't qualify ourselves for these conditions. And even if you are, that's a little, outside of your reach to do that for yourself, right? So when it comes to talking about these conditions, don't just, point at a knee and say, hey, this hurts, right? Get into it. Be descriptive. Hey, I'm getting radiating pains. I'm getting pulsating pains. It feels like my leg's on fire. Be really descriptive about what you're experiencing, right? And something that you'll hear a lot, especially with our process, is about being uncomfortably vulnerable. And really what that means is about getting real about the conditions that you have, right? This is not called the suck it up process. This is called the disability process, right? So you want to be able to explain about what is affecting you. And with that being said, I mean, Dr. John, you talked about range of motion. You talked about pain. When we talk about these things, it's not about trying to force yourself through that pain. It's not about trying to complete motions that you can't complete, right? If you're feeling pain, that's your body letting you know you shouldn't be doing this. And so, be honest with yourself, be honest with what you're dealing with, and be descriptive. The more you talk about these conditions, the more you get familiar with how you're experiencing what you're experiencing. An experienced doctor is going to be able to know how to assess and pick up what's going on, right? The more they hear about, the more details they get, the easier it makes for them to understand what you already know about yourself, right?
That's awesome, Justin, and completely right on the head. For example, I actually had to go to the VA and had to have some knee examined, and then did a C&P with my knees. As I was talking about that, I knew I don't go past pain points. So as soon as we got to the point where I started getting ready to feel pain, I stopped and said, "That's it. I can't do anymore. If I go any further, what's going to happen is," and then you just fill in the blank.
Yeah, and John, if you don't mind, I just wanted to ask real quick, if you could just give some of our viewers, a quick description. What is a CMP, right? For those of you who might not have encountered that before.
Right, it's a compensation pension exam. Um, so if you're doing a claim, you put in your claim, you say, "Hey, look, I want to do a claim on my knee." You put in the claim, and what we can do is teach you and guide you, give you information about how that works. But you do the claim, and then the VA is going to want to take a look at you. So they'll contract that out to a number of different organizations, and they'll call you and say, "Come on in, we need to check this out." And once you get there, you got to make sure that when you get there, you're ready for this. You don't go in there and just say, "Yeah, I have pain in my knee." Nothing's going to happen if that's the case. You have to be descriptive, sort of like what Justin's saying, and you have to be in a manner to where they can understand. You don't want to go in there using a bunch of doctor's terms and stuff like that because it looks like you're a Google machine and you looked all this stuff up. You want to actually just bring it down to layman's terms. Look, I have pain in my knee. If I move it this way, it feels like this. If I do this, and then I hear clicking, I hear anything that goes on, is what you want to talk about. And you want to talk about it in a way to where, because basically when they're doing the exam, they're checking off little boxes. And as they're checking off the boxes, you're helping them understand how bad this is.
Right.
And again, Justin, sort of like as soon as you get to the paint or the part where they're going to want you to do some movements, you have to remember, I do not go past pain points because there's no way to get a true reading if you do. Now, I know some of you guys are going to be out there and you're going to say, "No, yeah, I can bend it, but it hurts." And you go ahead and bend it. That's not going to help you at all. You have to get to the point where you say, "Stop. That's it. I don't want to end up in the emergency room and stuff like that." Now, I got a story about that. I have a brother, also was a paratrooper. Justin, I think you've met him.
Yep.
And he went through the process, and he allowed the practitioner to actually move his knee and stuff like that. And he kept telling him, "Hey, look, this hurts. This isn't working. Please stop." And the practitioner just, did that and then did even more. And
Right.
left there, he was like, "John, my knee, it was killing me. I don't know what to do." I was like, "Go straight to the emergency room, medical evidence." And what he did was do that. So that way, that was sitting in his medical report as the adjudicator got to it and saw that, "Oh, okay, this went too far." And now I have another doctor in an emergency room that told him, "No, you're going to be laid up for a while."
Right.
the idea, and that tells them exactly. But instead of doing that, do it the other way, to where you stop and you say, no, I can't go any further, whether it's bending your back, bending your neck, side to side for your neck, anything like that. You want to stop when you know you're about to feel pain. That's
Right.
how they can get a true reading. Now, they use an instrument called a goniometer. It's like a protractor type thing, and they're actually measuring how that works. Um, and where your proper rating should be is off of that too. Now, sometimes you go to a CNP and you might even have a doctor say, "No, I've been doing this for 20 years. I can eyeball it." No, you can't.
No.
It's
Yeah.
very, very tough to actually just eyeball anything. I don't care how long you've been doing it.
How close should that gomiometer be to a
Right.
person, right? John, what would you say?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, there at the end, I almost felt like buying one and taking it with me, going like, "Hey, here you go, use this one." But the thing is when they use it, it gives them exactly what it should be rated at. It gives them an idea of, okay, he can only extend this far, that's it, or she can only extend that far, that's it. That gives them the true rating or the true reading for it, so they can actually rate you the way they need to.
Right. The angle of flexion, correct? Yeah.
Right. That's it,
Right.
right
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other things that go into that. Now, if you have injuries or trauma that's actually happened to body parts, there's other things that can come into play. You have nerve damage that can come into play too. There's radiculopathy, upper and lower, down in the knees, knee area going down.
Yeah.
And you also have sciatic.
And
That
femoral.
can
Yeah.
that too, right?
Yeah.
And I know that, Justin, you've seen a ton of cases like that.
Yes.
If somebody actually has sciatic or radiculopathy, I'm going to tell you a little story after Justin tells you a little bit here. But what do you think is the best thing for when somebody's explaining not only that, but go ahead and do that side step to I also have this issue?
Right. So again, when we were talking about being descriptive about your conditions, about what you're experiencing, that can clue you in on some of the symptoms that you might be experiencing, right? And when we talk about symptoms, those are the keys to allowing someone to understand what you're dealing with, what kind of conditions you're experiencing. So when you talk about things like radiculopathy, you want to pay attention to how you're experiencing the pain in your legs, right? If you're feeling like sharp shooting pains, if it feels like lightning's running down your back, down your legs, right? If you feel like there's this kind of pain radiating down your legs, these are descriptors that help clue people in on what you're experiencing. If you're getting some numbness, some tingling, right, in your legs, you want to take a note of that and even look at yourself physically, right? I know I'm focusing a lot on the legs, but a lot of the radiculopathy tends to be in the lower extremities. It can be in the upper extremities as well if you're having some sort of cervical spine issues as well. So pay attention to what your body's telling you, right? Where you're feeling those pains, how you're feeling those pains, because that can really clue in on how this can progress. And like what Dr. John's about to talk about with the radiculopathy, it can be something that can be even seen through a CMP, correct? Yeah.
Yes, definitely. See, this is the interesting story I had. I was actually doing a CMP for both my knees. Um, and as they saw where my pain points or all that kind of stuff was, I started being descriptive. So, like what Justin said, and telling them, hey, look, I got sharp shooting pains every once in a while. This takes place. And that doctor actually went ahead and said, you know what? I think that's radiculopathy. Put it in. I never even did a claim for it, but I walked out of there with um, uh, ratings on my knees and ratings for radiculopathy. So you really need to talk about what you feel at certain parts of the day, certain actions that you do.
Yeah.
And, talking about, well, we talked about pain, range of motion, flare up, stuff like that. There's another aspect that you really want to cover is things that you gave up because of this.
Yeah.
I used to be a long distance runner. Now I can't do that anymore because of that. That leads to depression. That leads to different things that really bother me during the day. Or I used to go for walks with, a loved one at night. Can't do that. Can't go in the backyard and play with the kids anymore because I'm so afraid that if this thing flares up, I'm going to be sitting on the couch for 2 days.
Right.
Those type of things are stuff that you really want to talk about as well. And a lot of veterans don't open up in a way to where they should be talking about that stuff, because that is truly going to get you where you need to be and what you truly should be rated at. So
Definitely. And if you don't mind, I'd like to interject and just add a couple more things to that. If you're thinking about it too, start thinking about how you experience your conditions while you're at work, right? You got a physical job, you work in a warehouse, you lift things all day long. You need your knees, you need your back, you need your arms. And those things are aggravating factors, right? They're causing things to get worse. You want to be able to talk about that stuff. That's a big deal, right? Those are all limiting factors that you want to be able to experience and talk about. And I also want to add this disclaimer real quick. We are not telling anyone here that these are magic keywords that you have to bring up, right? We're only concerned about the truth. If you are experiencing what you're experiencing, you should talk about those things. If you are not experiencing these things, don't throw them in, right? So, talk about what you are going through, because I'm sure each individual here on this video, you're dealing with something. Everybody's dealing with something, right? So speak to the truth of what you're dealing with.
yeah, that's actually a really good point. We're all going through this, and you all serve. You know what honor means. You know what integrity means. You need to make sure as you're going through this that you're also remembering that, and don't we don't encourage anybody to elaborate in a way to where you're not telling exactly the truth. So that, because if you get found doing that, that becomes a real bad situation.
Yeah.
And because this is actually a situation too that is so easy, you don't really need to do any of that. Now, I'm looking through here. We're going to go ahead and answer some questions. And as we answer questions, we're going to go through more about radiculopathy. We're going to go more about any orthopedic things. Not orthopedics are actually very important. I think
Yeah.
it's what is it? 5 of the Big Ten.
Yes.
It's 5 of them are orthopedic. Um, and unfortunately, sometimes the VA looks at it and rates you a little bit low on those. But again, that's because you weren't descriptive. You didn't go through, and you didn't get the practitioner brought into. Wow, I couldn't imagine having that kind of pain all the time. I couldn't imagine. If you got a practitioner that's actually going that route with you, you're good to go, because nobody wants to deal with that kind of stuff. And that's stuff that's going to be lifelong. And stuff that's going to create other problems. Like if you live in a 2-story house, you going up and down the stairs, you won't be doing that, but too much, because sooner or later you're going to realize, hey, this is tearing my leg up. So
Yeah.
there's different little things that can be brought up in that. So
You know,
go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off there, John. I just wanted to say that's actually a perfect transition to one of the questions here in the chat. You talked about permanent conditions, right? Things that are lifelong, that last, that aren't going to go away. They're not getting better, right? So, we have a question in the chat here by Tara. Can you clarify the difference between 100% and 100% P&T, right? So for those of you who don't know, you can get 100% scheduler, meaning you just go through the process, you get to 100%, and you're rated at the top rating, right? However, there's also 100% permanent and total. That's what the P&T stands for, right? And what permanent total refers to is that the VAs recognize that some of your conditions, they're never going to improve. They're not going to go away, right? So they're never going to look to underrate that condition again. So if they're awarding you permanent and total status, and by the way, that's something that generally you qualify for when you get to 100%. However, it's not a guarantee, but if you get it, good on you, right? And if you get permanent and total, basically the VA is not looking to underrate you for any of your conditions moving forward. They recognize that these things aren't going to improve, right? So that's one way to look at that. The other thing is at 100% permanent and total status, John, that comes with some extra benefits as well, correct?
Oh yeah, definitely. It comes with a ton of benefits. Like sometimes you don't. It depends on your state. So make sure you get a book that Brian Reese wrote. Brian Reese is our founder. You deserve it. Um, that book actually will go through each state on what some of the breakdowns are. Free fishing license, free hunting license for life. A number of big situations too that deal with taxes,
Yes.
property taxes. That I don't hear. I'm actually in Virginia. I don't pay any personal property tax on my house, and I don't pay personal property tax on at least one of my vehicles, which is actually can save you some money. There's a lot of different things too. Free entry into national parks, all kinds of different things like that. So make sure you get that book from Brian Reese that wrote that, and check out what your state means. I'm looking through here, and I saw there was one that I saw. Um, okay, Brian David Shaw Jr. Let's see. Are we going to discuss as well how ratings work with multiple back and neck issues? Okay, now I'm going to switch over here. I have 40% for lower back. That's pretty high. That's way
Yes.
to go on that. And 10% for right radiculopathy. But also, I am also in HLR. I
Or
guess
neck
that's
pain. Yeah.
or neck pain. Are those separate or the same combined ratings? They're going to be separate because it's a separate body part. So you're going to actually have, and that's the cool part about radiculopathy. That's separate from the actual orthopedic situation. You're going to be rated for each if you discuss that, and the doctor says yes, I agree. This is the way that should go.
Yeah.
Um, but if you've got lower back, this is a prime example. If you've got lower back and you have radiculopathy, more than likely that came from some kind of trauma on your back, or rucksack marches or rucksack runs, like I had when I was in the Rangers. Um, that does tear up your back. Now, by that tearing up your back, those muscles are going to react differently the way that they're supposed to. And what's going to happen is you're also going to have muscles that react differently in your neck. So you can actually end up with a serious injury to your neck because of that. Or if it's a fall, all of it comes together. But you would do it separately. First, sort of like what you've done here, you've got your lower back done. Now, yes, your neck would follow suit if that's the case. If you're feeling pain and stuff like that, that's a perfect way to do that. Also, if you're feeling lower back, you should be looking at and talking to your doctors about your hips and your knees,
Yeah.
ankles, um, because when you have radiculopathy like that, you could have upper radiculopathy and you could have lower radiculopathy that comes off of that nerve. Now, when that happens, you're going to have pain that shoots all the way. If you ever heard anybody talk about, I got pain that shoots from my heels all the way up to the base of my neck. That's what that is. And those are they're set up different sections in different areas for you to actually make a claim on. But you need a lot of medical evidence. You need a lot of, I'd say, coaching on how to actually bring it out,
Yeah.
and how you would talk to a doctor about it. You got to remember those main points that we talked about earlier. You got to make sure that you're being descriptive. You're telling them about each and every little bit of what you're going through. So yeah, to answer your question, Brian, yes, that there's separate claims and there's separate diagnoses and there's separate ratings. So.
Right. And when it comes to radiculopathy as well, just like John was saying, you got to pay attention to where you're experiencing that, right? If it's running down the backs of your legs, going starting from your back, going down your legs. If it's going down the fronts of your legs, it could be sciatic nerve, femoral nerve. It is possible to even be rated for 4 separate areas just in your legs for radiculopathy. You could end up with 4 separate ratings. It's I've seen it happen, right? But that doesn't happen unless you talk to your doctors about what you're experiencing, right? And don't just tell them once. Be consistent about it, right? Month after month. If you're experiencing these things, update them. Something that you'll be familiar with as you go through this process is continuity of care, meaning that you're getting consistent treatment for what you're experiencing, right? If I were to go to the doctors and just tell them I deal with this one thing, and then 10 years later, I don't say anything again. Who's to say if that condition's still here? Who's to say if it's something else that's making it worse, or that it could have developed to something entirely different over time? So be consistent. Make sure you're talking about what you're experiencing, right?
Yeah, that's perfect. All right, we got another question here. Scott Cheesebrew. I had 3 knee surgeries and need replacement. Wow. When I get replacement, will they consider my knee fixed or take away my 30%? Okay, now this all goes back to the way you talk about it. Now, if you have, say, you have your knees and they are service connected, and let's just say, 10 each, okay? If you need a knee replacement, you need to get with the VA and let them know, hey, look, these are already service connected. What'll happen is once you have your knee replaced, the VA will take you up to 100%, okay, um, for a convalescent type of situation. Now, you need to make sure that you're in contact with the VA and this gets all done because there's some paperwork to do with that. After, I think it's about 3 months, 4 months, they'll go ahead and do another C&P for you, and usually it ends up somewhere around 30%. Now, again, just like what Justin said earlier, we can't guarantee that. We can't guarantee that that's how that's going to play out, but that's what usually happens. So they will take you up to 100% for that little short bit of time, come back and look at you and do another C&P to check to make sure that you're not to make sure that the range of motion is the same or the range of motion has gotten better or worse. If it's gotten worse, then your rating will go up. You talk about again things that you gave up, stuff like that, because you already have the surgeries to actually help the VA to concede. Yes, he has a problem, and if they're service connected, they also have to concede. We've already said they're service connected, so now we have to look about did it get worse or is it pretty much the same? If it's pretty much the same, it'll stay the same. But more than likely, your knee is going to be worse, especially 3 months after having a knee surgery or a knee replacement. It takes a long time for that to actually go back to where you can actually function in a manner to where it's not too debilitating.
Right.
Make sure that you're constant contact with the VA. Make sure that you're telling them, "Hey, look, these are service connected. I need to go ahead and have this replaced. What do I do next?" And the VA should be able to say, "Okay, you got to fill out this form, and this is the project or the program that you're going to be part of at that point." So it's actually pretty cool. The VA does that,
Yeah.
uh, and then after that, you're pretty much set up. You're at a situation to where they are going to be like, yeah, he's had all this different stuff happen and it's service connected. It's going to play right into your favor there. So,
I got a question here from Mark Nichols. I've been diagnosed and rated for radiculopathy in both legs, 40% radiculopathy for right leg and 40% radiculopathy with foot drop / loss of use of foot in left leg, 10% for back. Why are both legs rated the same when one side has loss of use of limb? Also, wouldn't this qualify for the bilateral factor, and where would I see that noted? Thanks. So, right off the bat, something that I want to talk about is understanding the rating conditions for each of your conditions, right? So just because you have a foot drop or loss of use of your foot on the left leg does not necessarily mean that will influence the rating for radiculopathy, right? Because you want to know what each condition is, the rating criteria is based on, right? So when it comes to radiculopathy, a lot of that is based on severity. We're talking about pain, we're talking about the symptoms that you're experiencing with the radiculopathy, so things we talk about, sharpshooting pains, right? Radiating pains, how you're experiencing those pains. That's really important. And the fact that you have 40% already on both sides, that's actually considered fairly high for radiculopathy. That percentage can definitely go higher, right? But 40% is already pretty high. And so, something I want to throw out there, if you are curious and really want to learn more about how these conditions are rated, one of the best resources we have is Military Disability Made Easy. It is a wonderful website. It's awesome. What it does is the rating criteria for all rateable conditions is based on something called the 38 CFR Part 4, right? Very confusing document. Dr. John, I'm sure you've read through it yourself, right? It is not easy to look through that and understand what is going on. So that's why we have Military Disability Made Easy. It's an awesome website. Helps make the 38 CFR Part 4 digestible, right? Makes it easy for guys like you and I to really break down and understand. And I know that you have a mental health background. You're familiar with these terms, but it still is not easy to read through these things, right?
No, you're absolutely right. And to be honest with you, I didn't even know what radiculopathy was till after I got a rating for it. I had no idea what it was, so, which is actually funny. Yeah, I only dealt with the brain. So anyway,
Yeah. Well, you actually touch on something that's so important and so key to this process, which is no one is expecting anyone to know every single condition that's out there or that you're dealing with, right? So if a lot of you are here on this call and you're like, I'm hearing about radiculopathy for the first time, don't feel embarrassed. Don't feel confused. Just know, you don't know what you know till you know, right? And that's a lot of what we're here to do also as coaches at VA Claims Insider is to bring some of that insight, to kind of look at your situation, figure out what else is on the table. Sometimes you live with these conditions for years and years. And you don't realize there's a name to what you've been experiencing. And it's something that you can get recognized or work on. So again, I just want to shout out, if you have questions, if you're concerned, if you're interested in looking into what's going on, jump on those discovery calls. That'll get you, connected with a coach like myself. And if you want to work with me directly, my link is also here as well. But Dr. John, I just wanted to ask if you could touch a little bit upon Mark's second question about bilateral factor a little bit.
Yes, that could qualify for bilateral. But now this is the way I would look at it, okay? With everything that I've seen over the years, you're at 40%. I wouldn't touch a thing there, nothing. But the key thing that you said is your 10% for your back. That is actually interesting because if your back or if your knees and your legs are that bad, you need to really talk to your doctor about your back. You can talk to your doctor about your hip because there is absolutely no way that your gait has not been thrown off and you're using muscles in the wrong way. It's not natural. So your back is probably the situation you want to really take a look at now. But make sure you get with a coach and make sure you plan this out because the strategy on something like that is very touchy, but it can be done in a manner to where they can understand it. Because if you're that high with your lower, that would make it really interesting that you're only 10% for your back should be a lot higher.
Yeah.
And also adding the radiculopathy, that's a separate claim in itself too, besides your back, because that nerve actually creates other issues and stuff like that. So I would suggest get with a coach, make sure that you play this out the right way. There's a lot of situations to where veterans go and like, look, I know it should be bilateral. I know it should be this. It should be that. Slow down just a little bit because if you're rated already at or near the highest that it's going to be rated, don't touch it again.
Right.
Come there, move on to the other situations because you could end up with a situation where you are reevaluated and all of a sudden you do better during the C&P than you did before. You're going to have they're going to decrease at that point. So in your particular case, if I was your coach, I would recommend that you start looking at your back, shoulders, neck, all that kind of stuff. Or also look at your feet. because if you've got that kind of nerve damage, I'm sure your feet are probably falling asleep or have that tingly type thing that we all hate, that needly type thing that happens. That's called neuropathy, and it plays right off of that too. So my suggestion would be get with a coach and make sure you plan this out. Like I said, it's a puzzle, and you got to make sure those pieces fit and really get together. So definitely make a do the free discovery call and get on there and find out how you can become part of and get a coach assigned to you
Yeah.
to actually help you through this.
And I think that brings us to one of a good transition to a question in the chat here by Sabrina Watkins. My knee was never claimed, but it can be secondary to back and sciatic pain, correct? Well, here's the thing. That's what we're talking about, right? I want to put this disclaimer out there again. We're not doctors. We're not medical professionals, right? We're coaches. What we're here to do is help strategize with you, figure out what's on the table, what you might be dealing with that you can go and talk to your doctor about, and they'll be able to help qualify those conditions because, again, they have the tools, they have the skills to do that, right? But what you want to be aware of is what you're experiencing so that you can get that message across to your doctor, right? So, Sabrina, I just want to tell you, it could be a possibility, right? Now, I say it could because there could be other extenuating factors, could be other things a part of that. So, we keep stressing the discovery calls and especially strategy sessions with coaches, because when you get to talk with a coach one-on-one, they'll be able to look at what you got and really break down and figure out for you specifically what's going to be effective, right? We could talk all day about conditions, but again, they affect each and every one of us differently on an individual basis. So the better we're able to talk, strategize, and break that down together, the better we're going to have a strong strategy, and you'll be able to have an easier conversation with your doctors as well, I feel. Right.
That's awesome. You're absolutely right. I saw another question on here real quick. Facebook user, it doesn't say a name there, but can you get more than 100%? No, 100% is that's it. Why would you want more? That's the way I look at it. Because it is what the VA gives you. So yeah, it's just 100%. And like earlier, you can be 100% scheduler. That means that somewhere in your future, you've got another exam coming. They're going to pop it on you within 3 to 5 years type of deal. But if you have PNT behind that, it means no, there's not getting any better. And you don't, everything that you have, that service kinetic, is what they call static. That means there is no future exams in your future, and you will keep that and stay there as long as you're, keeping up with it. And, I mean, you still need to go and talk to a doctor and still get treatment for stuff, but they're not going to come back at you.
Right.
Permanent total is definitely where you want to be in the long run. Man, we have a lot of questions coming through here.
Really active chat today.
Questions that we don't get to. But again, if you make that phone call and get with somebody on that free discovery phone call, you're going to be able to get some answers started.
Yes.
And that's the important part, because you want to make sure that you got what you can go for. Let's see.
Oh, I got a good one.
Look at Lori Shaw, U.S. Air Force, 83 through 1992. She's in Hampton, Virginia. That's awesome. Right. I'm actually in Virginia too, and I know where you're at there. That's actually pretty cool. Seeing somebody, it is a small world. It really is. Let's see.
All right. Oh, actually, I got one here by, if you don't mind, John, Ralph Joyner. We were just talking about this, about the CMPs and using goniometers, right? Ralph Joyner says, my nurse practitioner showed me the goniometer, but she never held it up against my body. She had me lift my own leg for SLR. Will that disqualify the exam, or will I have to get another exam? So that's a good question about bad CMPs, right?
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
And Ralph, awesome beard. I love the picture there. Wow, that's cool. It could disqualify it, but that would only be if it went to the rater and the rater said, hey, I didn't get enough information here. Now there's different ways to actually use the goniometer. Some hold it right on you and do it. I've seen some actually hold it back and do it. So it really depends on the practitioner and how they were actually taught. But the cool part about this is as soon as you have your CMP, you go ahead and write that down. If have a coach, you let your coach know, and you also call that 1-800-827-1000 and tell them this. That way, it's going to be on record. So when the adjudicator looks at it and starts trying to figure out should you be service connected, and if yes, what rating it should be, they're going to see your note there, and they're going to say, well, how could she have done that? So more than likely, they will actually send it back and say, yes, we need another CMP because I need that information. That's usually the way that works. So
yeah,
it could go both ways. Again, remember, we're dealing with the VA. Sometimes things make sense, and then sometimes things doesn't make sense because of experience. I think experience is what gets people in a lot of trouble sometimes, especially with doctors and they're talking about this type of stuff. Experience will create a situation where they're just used to that and they just run through the gauntlet like that. So sometimes that'll happen. If it does, don't look at it as a bad thing. You want to make sure that they have all the correct information so they can make the correct decision on that. So
yeah, unfortunately we don't live in a perfect world. You know, the CMP examiners are human too, right? Mistakes happen. Right. But there's always something you can do about it. And if you're not sure what that is, discovery call. Call us, talk to us, let us know what that CMP was like. There might be an option for you, right?
I see one here from Adam. Oh, there is no way I'm trying that last name.
Yeah.
Bilowski? That might be it. Okay.
Okay.
Adam actually wrote, I was denied for my back, but I submitted buddy letters and was approved. Awesome. Now, this is something that you want to actually make sure that you're doing, and something that Justin and myself have been taught. This is how this works. You keep going back. You keep showing new information, new diagnosis, new medical evidence, and you keep going back in a way to where you keep letting them know, look, this is really happening to me. I really need someone to take a listen to this, and that's only going to happen as you keep attacking. Now, all of us have, been in the military. You know what that means. You got to get to the objective. You keep moving, and you keep going, and that's something that really helps when you have a coach, because I think that it's sort of like I know our founder told me something just the other day that he believes that everybody should have a coach.
Right.
Not just a coach here at BACI, but some kind of coach that actually helps you through different situations. I totally agree, because it will get you fired up and keep you moving forward. And that's the most important part about this whole process is your motivation and your willingness to go ahead and stand up and say, I got hurt. This hurts and it's affected me, and it's creating situations with me at work, with me and my family, with me and me being social. It's important that you get that out, because you have to get that out and you have to let those practitioners know how this is actually truly affecting you.
Yes.
So it goes back to what Justin's saying. Be descriptive. Tell them exactly what's going on, but never, ever give up. Keep fighting. Keep moving forward, because let's face it, you guys are heroes. Brothers and sisters of the uniform, you're heroes. You deserve this. You've earned this. And you need to keep fighting for it, and keep showing them every time if there's a denial, you look at that denial and you find out what they're saying no to. You go ahead and make sure that you're getting with your doctor. You're talking about that type of situation. You go back at it.
Yeah.
Just keep doing it.
When we talk about denials, it's always because some piece of information was missing, right? That's why a denial happens. And, figuring out what that piece of information is can be crucial. Like, just like, last veteran was saying, just being able to submit those buddy letters was enough to help qualify the condition. Sometimes that's what you need, right?
Right.
And to follow up on that, RV has a question in the chat. I had a right knee injury in service, but both knees are affected. Do I need to get that claim first and claim other as secondary after, or let's see, and or can I claim both at the same time, right? So this goes back to something that I wanted to address earlier as well. So Dr. John, I know you shared your story with us about being paratrooper, doing those jumps, and that kind of leading to further damage, knee pain, back pain, things like that. The reason it's so key that you shared that story is because when it comes to service connection, there are 3 requirements, right? You have to have an in-service event or aggravation of a condition prior to going into service. You have to have a current diagnosis of the condition that you're trying to claim, and you have to be able to establish a nexus. And for everyone who's confused by that word, myself included, a nexus is just a fancy word for link, right? You got to show how the 2 are related. What you're diagnosed for? How's that relate to what happened to you in service, right? So all of this is important, not just about talking about your condition, but what your condition was a result of, right? So in RV's question, he's basically referring to, should I claim this knee first or both at the same time? I wish I could answer that question in greater detail right now, but I would love to point you towards a discovery call and talking to a coach. But to give a general answer to your question, you can't claim a secondary to something without the primary being service connected first, right? That's one way to kind of look at things, right? But again, it really depends on your story, right? So, with Dr. John, right, your in-service event was the fact that you were a paratrooper, right? And those experiences caused damage, caused harm to certain parts of your body. And through over the years, getting care, right? Current diagnosis does not mean that you were diagnosed 10 years ago, right? Current diagnosis means, you're actively looking at your conditions. You're talking to your doctor, right? Maybe there's something within the last 2 years, right? Something like that. And then that way, it becomes easier to establish that nexus, how the 2 are related to each other, right? So a lot of it, when we talk about denials again, it's usually just that the VA might be missing something, right? And sometimes the VA makes mistakes themselves. And so as coaches, if we're able to catch that mistake, we can do something about it, right?
That's awesome. That's awesome, Justin. And as you guys saw, let's go ahead and put Justin's link back up there. As you saw an expert go through this and actually get somebody in a situation where you know how to attack. You've got somebody that knows exactly how to actually put that together. So you definitely want to get with a coach because it actually makes it a lot easier. Everything kind of flows right together when you've got a coach, and everything becomes a lot easier. And actually, there's points of it too where it becomes fun. I know that sounds weird, John. You got all these aches and pains. How is it fun? It's because you get to learn more about not only you, but you get to learn about your conditions, how you can actually, do things to make it in a situation where it's a little bit more tolerable. You can actually do things to make it a situation where you know what's going on with your body, what you can and can't do, and that's actually very important as you get older and as you move through there. As you may have noticed, Justin's a lot younger than me. But the cool part about this is I know what I can't do because I've learned about my conditions, and that's really important. So the whole process is really interesting and really can help you know how to move along, in the future, and how to keep going. So
Yeah.
now make sure if you're actually impressed, and I don't know how you couldn't be, you get with Justin and you go ahead and get the ball rolling for you and start getting to where you're getting what you deserve. You're getting compensated, but also having somebody actually recognize, yes, I can understand how you're getting this. And that's perfect. That's the perfect way of doing it. So you get that puzzle piece to fit the right way, and everything just falls right into place. So, unfortunately, now we're at the top of the hour. I love doing this with you, Justin. I
That's
was
awesome.
making a joke about this. I think it was last week. Me and Justin, we haven't done a class in a long time together, and I
Yeah.
was, so happy that we are going to be able to do this. And of course, you pulled it off, Justin. You were awesome, man. Thank
Oh, likewise. It's always a pleasure getting to hang with you, John. And I mean, I hope we get to do more of these together in the future. It's awesome. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate that. Now, guys, make sure you go ahead and do that free discovery call and go ahead and get started. There's no time like the better, is the way I always look at it. You do it, and you'll see the differences from that first question that was asked earlier. What's How are you different? You're going to find out if you get involved how we're different.
Definitely.
Okay. I wish everybody well, my brothers and sisters in uniform. Until next week, I hope you guys have a great day.
Take care, everyone. Thank you for spending your time with us. We appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.